You are not alone, presented by www.anantaaum.com, a free 7-day global online summit on mental health and holistic well-being with Sasha Braganza, Tripura Kashyap, Elana Davidson, John G. Prendergast, Brian Sachetta, and Keith Russell. This global mental health summit is to raise awareness about mental health, help you understand your unique needs, empower you with easy-to-apply tools, release the stigma attached to mental disorder, create a more safe, kind, compassionate, and inclusive world. Hi, I'm Ananta Aum. I empower loving empaths like you to overcome self-doubt and be the change you wish to see in the world with unapologetic kindness. I hold a mirror for you to gently understand yourself better. Recognize your strengths and hone a divine, unique essence that only you can anchor on this planet. I'm currently training light workers across 8 countries to find their purpose and live their mission in oneness of love and breath. We are a growing soul family, and I'm grateful to have you here with us right here, right now.
A very warm greeting to all of you. We're here to speak with Elana today and a little bit about her before we get into the conversation. Over the last 10 years, Elena has coached and taught countless clients to transform chronic feelings of inner conflict and emotional turmoil that despite their best efforts, they have not been able to change. So they can wake up happy and excited to get out of bed in the morning and experience true peace, happiness, and confidently build lives they truly love. She is also the best selling author of Finding Your Own Happy, the Soul Searcher's Guide to Peace and Happiness in Everyday Life, in which she shares her personal story as well as the tools, insights, and perspectives that made a lasting difference to her emotional health and happiness. Elena's professional training spans decades of exploration and study in fields of consciousness, psychology, personal development, and energy healing, and along with her natural empathetic and intuitive abilities, inform her work with clients. Excuse me. She is also a certified transformational kinesiologist and holds a BA in child study and human social dynamics. When not traveling the world sharing her message and her healing gifts, Elena lives in the beautiful town of Moab, Utah, and we're so grateful to have her here speak with us. Welcome, Elena. It's so wonderful to have you here. Thank you so
Yes,
much for being here.
this is a topic dear to my heart, so I'm so happy that you invited me to come and share and talk about these subjects.
I'm so grateful. So, would you like to tell us a little more about yourself and your journey before we talk about your book?
Yeah, so for many, many years of my life, probably 20 or more, I struggled with some really intense depression that I didn't know how to change. I had grown up in a culture of personal development and spirituality, and so I was exposed to a lot of things from a very early age, and yet, despite having all of these tools at my disposal, I was still struggling, sometimes really deeply, to be happy and even just like not wanting to live anymore. And I knew that there had to be something on the other side, and that there had to be a way to get past my suffering and my struggle. And I got to a really low point in my life. I was homeless. I was really depressed, and I said to myself, okay, either I'm going to figure out how to stay on the planet in a way that doesn't cause me such extreme pain and suffering, or I'm leaving. And I'd already decided that I wasn't going to take my own life. So I committed myself at that point to figure out how to be here in a way that was easier, happier, more peaceful, and more joyful, because I was literally feeling tormented. And so that led me on this quest of deep self-exploration and basically applying a bunch of tools that I got in elsewhere to understand my own experience, what was truly at the heart of it, and then what would help change it for me. And now I can say I hardly ever am depressed and full of joy most of the time, and have brought to the table some really important insights and tools that a lot of other people also have been missing, which is why I wrote the book, is because I felt like I see so many other people kind of feeling the same way, like, what's wrong with me? I don't get it, and nothing I'm doing is working. So I wanted to offer them the insights that I had that I felt like nobody else was talking about.
Wow, wow. So tell us more about your book. What was that like? What has the process been like? And you've been sharing your book and insights and courses with a lot more people. So
Yeah.
how has that journey been for you, from moving from the depths of depression to actually bringing in the life lessons that you learned from it? And it's such a blessing to everyone what you have.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pure joy to do the work that I do and to work with the people that I work with and to watch. I spoke with the women. I worked with a woman a few weeks ago that between our first conversation and our second conversation, she completely changed her life. She had been struggling. She felt like her life had ended 13 years prior and she hadn't been happy since. And between the first conversation we had and the second conversation we had, she made huge changes. It was just miraculous to watch how after 13 years of struggle, she just turned her life around. And she said to me that my permission, so one of the things that I talked about is being allowed to have an emotionally appropriate response to the things that happen to you, including being able to be angry, and that anger serves a purpose, and that we need to be able to process our anger so that we can move through it. And she said to me that my permission to let her be angry and to validate her feelings that went back to when she was a little girl, and she's probably close to 40 or in her 40s, that permission and somebody seeing her and acknowledging her pain and telling her she had a right to it actually allowed her to let it go in a huge way. She's like, I don't have to hold on to this anymore. And it's amazing to me to watch. I get told repeatedly from people, I got more out of that one conversation with you than all of my years of therapy. And that's because we're hitting on some really key pieces that people have not been seen or heard for. And when they are, opens up this amazing space for them to have a different kind of experience in their lives.
Beautiful. Can you tell us a little more about the process you use?
Yeah. It's been an evolution over time, and it's interesting because now I see themes and threads, and I think I'm getting ready to actually write the second book from everything that I've learned on this journey. But my work is particularly geared toward the sensitive and empathic person. So we spend a lot of time helping people understand what is their feelings and energy and what is other people's energy, and how to really separate that out and to be clear for themselves on the difference. I mean, that's one of the pieces that people are often missing, is they feel the world around them and think it's their own stuff, and then they can't work themselves out of it because it didn't actually belong to them in the first place.
Absolutely. So I've been clairsentient and clairvoyant as a child, and I know the feeling when everything feels exactly like yourself. And one of the things that I share is that, just take a moment to see whether it's really yours or not yours, and then you know how to respond to it. Otherwise, you're just thinking that it's everything for you to process, as in participate. So there's a difference between processing and participating. So what would you like to say about that?
Yeah, well, so one of the things that I missed for all of those years that I was using all of the personal development tools and not getting results was that I was hugely empathic, and I was absorbing the energy and the feeling of the people around me, and then thinking it was me and my problems. And so one of the first really important steps on that journey is to be able to differentiate between what is you and truly your own trauma, your own healing work, and what is just things that you're sensing or perceiving or aware of. And then once you do that, the way that you respond to your own healing work versus the way you respond to feeling or sensing other people's energy is very different. But when you can tell the difference between what's what, then you can better know what to do with each of them, because it's a different process.
Absolutely, and that's such a powerful distinction. So I'm so grateful we spoke about that for our empaths in the audience today. So would you like to share your perspective of why we need to speak about empathy being a gift rather than a curse? Because a lot of people, especially some who come to me in the initial stages of their processes, they've had experiences where it's been more difficult to handle that empathy, which is actually a blessing and a gift,
Yeah.
but they see it as a curse because it's just so overwhelming. And then we unwrap, the gifts deep rooted inside of that
Absolutely.
gift. So, what would you like to share about that?
Well, in a recent class that I did, I said, the problem is not that we're empathic, it's what we do with our empathic awareness or how we automatically respond to the energy of others. So, and in my work, I've discovered there's a whole bunch of different reasons why we pull in and try to process other people's emotions or feelings. Some of it's trauma related, right? We're trying to, if you grew up in a household with an angry person, and you couldn't get away, you had no choice, you're a little kid, you may develop the skill of trying to process that anger yourself so that it can dissipate and you don't have to feel it as intensely. So that's one reason why we might pull in other people's energy. And so to understand not only that you're empathic, but why you're having the kinds of experiences that you are, because sometimes you're automatically trying to solve something for someone else, you're trying to heal them. You're trying to take it away from them so that they calm down, whatever that is. So it's like delving under the surface and understanding what am I really doing with my energy and why am I taking it on so much versus just acknowledging it and being aware of it and being able to let it go. Sometimes it's also that what I think of as safety tracking. You get hyper vigilant and you track the energy of other people around you as an attempt to keep yourself safe. And I had an intense experience actually with somebody who lived next door to me. There was some flirtation going on between him and I, but some weird things. And I started to feel everything that was going on with him. It's like, and I know because I checked it out with him, I asked him and he verified. And I was like, what? Like, why am I aware of this person's childhood trauma right now and all of his emotional upset? I don't need this. And I realized it's because he was a little hot and cold and I was feeling insecure and unsafe with it. And so I was putting my energetic feelers out to track everything that was going on with him so that I could sort of manage it. And so I had a little talk with myself. I said, there's other ways you don't need this. You don't need to know everything that's going on with him in order to be okay. That's not the reality that you live in anymore. And that really helped me just calm the whole thing down and not have to be so heightenedly aware of everything that was happening with him.
Yeah. Wow. It also helps to understand people's behavior and not take things personally because, a part of that distinction also helps us know where people are coming from and instantly differentiate between whether we are being triggered, our own trauma is being triggered, or whether it's genuinely someone else dealing with their own trauma in their own way, and we're just happening to be participants in supporting and holding that space for someone else's evolution. So,
right.
What would you like to share at this point about, holding that space for others while staying empathetic, while being aware of all of those things, like you mentioned, your friend's childhood trauma was very visible to you. So, how do you recognize that this is, yes, his childhood trauma? I am feeling insecure about these points. And then where do you draw that line when you interact with such a person?
Yeah, so for a lot of, I'm thinking about this whole topic of mental health, right? So for a lot of people, they are still at the place where they don't even recognize that they're empathic. And so they're having these kinds of experiences without having language of it, without having knowledge of it, or they're getting in experiences with other people, relationships, interactions with other people, and they get really confused or they think that they have social issues or all of this kind of stuff because they haven't developed that level of clarity. So I think there are 3 skills as an empathic and a sensitive person that, and also a lot of people who are struggling with mental health are missing. And one is to know the difference between what is yours and what's not. The second one is to know what to do with what you're receiving, right? How to process energy, how to work with it, how to not absorb it and then the third is what I say, develop your skills so that you don't take on and absorb so much stuff in the first place, which has to do with healing your own trauma, coming into your own self and your own energy, learning the skills of energetic awareness, how to navigate energy, how to move energy, how to understand what you're perceiving. So there's different layers, right? And so the more clear you get in yourself and the more clear you get about what is yours and what is not, then the easier it is to be with another person's energy because you're fully aware that it's not you. Sometimes it takes a little bit of separating that energy out so it doesn't affect you. But you know, the starting place is really getting clear on what is yours and what is not. And I will tell everyone listening that I'm pretty certain that a lot more of what you experience is actually not yours than what you think it is. I've had to really learn, like, there's the stuff I really know is not mine. And then there's the stuff that I thought was mine and sometimes was convinced was mine. But then when I really look into it and do the work, also discover it's not mine. And then there's a little piece that is truly mine. But for most of us, a lot less of it is actually ours than we think it is initially.
Wow, that's so powerful. And it's one of the things that we've mentioned in a book called The Inner Child Archetypes, where we go deep into the inner child trauma. Or for some people, it's not even trauma in the conventional sense, but you know, there are such deep-rooted experiences, emotional, mental, verbal abuse sometimes, or just the patterns that we have from family around us growing up, and we sort of take on those voices as our own or identifications as our own. So the inner child archetype actually helps us identify what is ours and what is not, and also to deal with people, because we sometimes, you know, we draw in people similar to our past patterns, whether it's a partners or friends. And it's so
I talk about that quite a bit in my work. Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that I say about that, which is an interesting connection, is when you haven't healed your childhood trauma, you haven't become aware of a certain energetic pattern. So if you're in a family there's a pattern of manipulation, but you were never allowed to have an emotionally appropriate response to that experience, then when that experience shows up elsewhere in your life, you don't recognize it for what it is, and you're always surprised. Or the analogy I give is like, if you're walking toward a wood stove, the heat is there to tell you that it's hot and don't touch it. But in childhood, often we've been cut off. So our emotions are like the heat of the fire. They're giving us information about the world around us and what we're experiencing. But if as a little child, you haven't been allowed to have an emotionally appropriate response to the things that happen to you, then that signal, that warning sign is cut off. And so you go towards something that is unkind, uncaring, or downright hurtful toward you. But you don't have the awareness to notice it as that, because it was trained out of you when you were little. And so then you wonder why you end up in the same situations over and over and over again. It's because you couldn't see them, because you didn't see them in the original form. And so then you don't see them when they show up later.
Absolutely.
And so to me, that's why it's so important to do some of that inner child trauma healing work, because when you deal with the original pain and hurt and you allow yourself to have the appropriate feelings to what happened to you, first of all, what I see with my clients is then they can finally let it go. They can finally let go of all of that place where they weren't seen, and, you know, trying to sort of compensate, make up for that place. And then also they can start to pay attention to or notice and make different choices in the rest of their lives about what is okay for them and what is not, because they've been pretending for so many years that something that happened to them when they were little was okay when it really wasn't. And it's just beautiful to see the transformation that I'm sure you know the transformation that happens when you work with that subconscious inner child dynamic and peace.
Absolutely, it's so beautiful. So the two terms to distinguish, we or just to help people identify those two aspects, we call it the wounded inner child and the divine inner child. The divine inner child is the child of the universe, of the creation, which is, has constant access to the abundance of life, to the resources, to everything that we need to make this life powerful and beautiful. And bringing that back to, I love the sentence that you use, which is waking up with enthusiasm, waking up with that energy, getting out of bed with purpose. And I think that's such a huge difference between the times when, we're feeling anxious or depressed, because the morning time is, chemically also, there is a tendency to feel very low in the first immediate half of the morning if there is, it's a biochemical experience. So can you tell us a little more about that? I loved how you brought that into
Yes. Well, yeah, so the waking up happy and excited to get out of bed in the morning, right? And to me, that's like when you're in your true energy, your true essence, your true sense of yourself and beingness of yourself, and you've cleared out like all of that other stuff that's not you. It's like that's your natural, like look at little children. Most of them are pretty joyful and happy most of the time, right? They have an enthusiasm, they know what they want, they have a passion for life. And so that's a real piece of it. And just to sort of waking up. So I don't wake up happy and excited to get out of bed in the morning every day. I just want to let people know that. But here's the piece. When I don't, I know what to do and what to look at to shift that so that I can get to the place where I am happy and excited and joyful about my life. Because one of the things that also happens while you sleep, at least for me, and you can tell me if you have this experience too, but your barriers sort of to other worlds and other people's energy are much more soft. So sometimes in your sleep, there's a lot of interesting energy that comes in. And I definitely sometimes have to wake up in the morning and clear out whatever other people's energy, whatever it is that has come in. But, when I'm really clearing my own energy, that's when it's like, let's go. This is a great day. It's a great day to be alive. I'm so happy to be here. And then, in those moments that's not the start, it's like, okay, what do I need to clear here? What energy am I holding that is not actually me, that I need to let go of and put aside? And then it's like, I can very quickly access waking up grumpy to accessing that state of joy again.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's so powerful. And it's so true that yes, we do absolutely experience energies even as the body rests, because the soul and the consciousness is expanding, and we do tap into so many portals and people's energies. So we actually share a morning routine, which is, which helps instantly recognize and empower from the night's sleep. And because so many messages and signs also come in as we sleep and dream. So just trying to access that before we open our eyes, and also just showering first thing in the morning before going to bed to clear out all those energies and have a routine of connecting with that true self before sleeping and immediately after waking up to tap into that joy. That's beautiful, beautiful.
Something I wanted to just share on this topic that was a big piece of me coming out of really dark depression that not a lot of people talk about. And I also sometimes don't always talk about because I don't want people to think I'm really far out there. But there's a piece for many of us who are aware of spirits and entities that are around us and in the field. And sometimes those energies come in while we're sleeping. And I had a really profound experience that I write about in my book of staying in I stayed in an old factory building, and I couldn't sleep, and I had intrusive thoughts, and I felt like I wanted to die, and I didn't understand what was happening. And I said, what's going on? Because the truth is, I don't actually want to die. What is happening here? And I discovered through some different sort of inquiry and support from some other people that I had been picking up on the energies and the entities that were left over in that old factory building. There was a lot of unhappy energy there, and it had attached itself to me in a very deep way to like bringing me to a really dark depression. And what I discovered is that when I use the tools to work with the entity energies and clear the entity energies, I didn't go back to that same level of severe depression that I had experienced throughout my life.
Wow, absolutely. And thank you so much for bringing that up and, sharing it with us. We're really, really grateful for this insight and life experience. We also include transgenerational healing because oftentimes we have
Yes,
the
that
loved
too.
ones. Yeah. So we include transgenerational healing as to be a part of that holistic process. And this is such an important point, Helena. Thank you so much for bringing that up. There's a book by James Van Praagh, and I remember when I first read that book, it was such an insightful experience to recognize that what I was experiencing and seeing was also, it was sort of a validation of being able to see those spirits and seeing their trouble
Yeah.
and seeing, just wow. So thank you so much for bringing that into this conversation.
It's such an important big piece that people are scared to talk about, right? Because there's a lot of stigma around it. And yet, I think if we can acknowledge it and we can decrease the amount of fear and really just help us understand and learn tools to work with it. Not all spirits or entities are bad or harmful or negative, or we often think of ghosts as this scary thing, but as we can learn to recognize that we're aware of so many other dimensions and then understand how to process it, yeah, it's definitely, I think I could safely say it saved my life.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for you again for sharing this. And, just for our audience out there, in case you're feeling this, we would recommend that you look at getting support from a professional, because oftentimes when we listen to this, we start thinking, oh, maybe this is happening to me. And if you feel that right now, we'd recommend you see a specialist to work with this and not sit with this, because then you may start projecting a lot of this for yourself. Elena, any words on that?
Yeah, so I really can't emphasize enough how valuable and important it is on the mental health and happiness journey to find support that really works for you. Like I spent a lot of years getting, there's definitely unhelpful support, right? And therapy can be wonderful. For the first time in my life, I have a therapist I absolutely love. But for a lot of years, because no one understood the empathic piece and the psychic piece and all of those pieces, I really struggled to feel seen, heard, safe, etc. I think it's really having support that you resonate with and people that get you can make such a world of difference. It can take a little while to get there, but please don't give up. I'm here. I do free calls with anybody who's struggling with a particular issue that they want to get to the heart of understanding what's creating it and what will help them shift it. And so we can really just tap into, like, if it is an entity thing, we can identify that for you and help you really move to a new place with it. But that's the thing, I think, with some severe mental health is that feeling that you are so alone and that nobody understands you and that you are completely alone in the world. And if you knew how many other people feel that way, you would know just how not alone you are. I mean, it's sort of such a almost humorous thing that so many of us share this experience of feeling so alone and like nobody's there. And so finding those people, finding that support, having the courage to reach out even when you're scared or you think nobody's going to understand you. And then learning, not everybody is a safe person to share what you're going through. And I had to learn that, and learning who are the people that can really support you when you're going through a hard time, or if you're having a, trauma related, trigger or something like that. You learn who the people are that can respond to you in a way that is truly supportive and truly helpful, rather than sort of perpetuating your sense of isolation or nobody gets you, etc. And I think it's really also helpful to be discerning about who you open yourself up to, who you trust yourself with, and to take some steps to really learn what kind of support is going to really work for you, and take that risk a little.
Those are very, very powerful tips. Just be very mindful of who you're sharing with, and that just beautifully completes the circle of bringing in energy and empathy as part of that mental health process, right?
Yeah, and I would say if you're going to someone or you're working with someone and your experience is that you are feeling worse about yourself and about your life, then you're probably off track and should seek different help. Mm-hmm. There is a point where, you have to look at some dark stuff that might be uncomfortable to look at and to work through. But if on the whole, it's affecting your self-image and your sense of yourself, and you feel worse about yourself, and it's deflating your energy, like therapy is supposed to make you feel better, supposed to help you get to a better place. And the woman that I talked about in the beginning of the call, one of the things she said in our first call was that she was going to a therapist and she was just feeling more and more depressed about her life. I said, stop, like you're on the wrong track. And I think that is so important, right? Find the people that lift you up, that help you have some hope, have some courage, feel better about yourself and your life, not that just label you and make you think you have more and more problems, because that's just a slope down to like more sort of hopelessness, and is my view.
Yeah, absolutely. I have loved everything you've shared with us, Elana. Thank you so much. It's been really powerful. And for those of you who would like to get Elana's book, I'm going to be sharing the link right after this conversation. I'm also going to be sharing her website. Elana, would you like to share anything more in addition before we sign off for today?
I think my message is that so many people walk around feeling like there's something wrong with them. And I want you to know that there's not anything wrong with you. You just haven't learned how to understand or work with what you're experiencing in a way that can give you the peace, the freedom, the joy, and the happiness that you deserve. And I see you, and you have been through probably a whole lot in your life that was not kind and not caring to you. And when you get the right tools and the right support, you can come out of those places and find your true happiness and your true joy.
Beautiful. Thank you, Elana.
Yes, thank you. It's been such a pleasure.
See you again.
Yes, thank you.